Your nervous system is completely addicted to stress, and it literally mistakes peace for a massive disaster. You are sitting in a completely quiet room on a Tuesday night, perfectly safe, but your heart is beating so hard you feel like you might actually drop dead. Why does having zero problems feel exactly like a deadly trap? The hard truth is that your brain just forgot how to function without fear. Everything you feel in the silence right now comes from this one broken biological switch. It turns an empty living room into a total nightmare. Because your brain learned a long time ago to expect things to go wrong, it treats a calm environment as a huge warning sign. We do not need complex science to understand what is happening inside your head today. We just need to look at what your physical body does when the noise of the outside world finally stops. If you were just dealing with normal, everyday stress, a quiet room would eventually slow your breathing down and make you feel better. But if your survival system is caught in this specific trap, silence actually does the exact opposite. The quiet makes your internal body noise feel incredibly loud. It turns totally normal physical feelings into terrifying warning signs. You hear the steady rhythm of your own breath, and you feel the heavy pulse of your own heartbeat echoing in your chest. Instead of realizing these sounds just mean you are alive and resting, your brain reads that normal physical rhythm as a glaring red alert. It thinks you are in terrible danger purely because you are sitting still without a problem to solve right this second. This happens because of a very old survival mechanism that absolutely refuses to turn off even though the war is over. When you spend years dealing with heavy stress, bad relationships, or unpredictable bosses, your mind adapts to keep you alive by building a heavy suit of armor. But now that you are actually safe and sitting in your own house, that exact same armor is crushing the life out of you. Honestly, if you are tired of negotiating with your own panic and want to master these hidden patterns, you should probably just subscribe to the channel right now, before we move on to the actual biology of your fear. Let us get back to why your mind totally rejects the safety you worked so hard to achieve. When your daily adult life is finally safe, your brain simply does not believe the evidence right in front of its eyes. It assumes the danger is just hiding out of sight, waiting for you to lower your guard so it can completely ruin your life. This specific glitch in your threat detection system is called emotional object permanence. Basically, if a threat is not visible in a quiet room, a highly stressed brain assumes it is hiding rather than believing it is actually gone. Think about the reality of your living room for a second while you try to relax after a long day at the office. You try to sit on a couch where the fabric is soft and the cushions are perfectly placed. The lighting in the room is totally flat and calm, giving your skin a warm glow as you rest your head back. There are no sharp edges of conflict anywhere. No fine 0.3 millimeter lines dividing your evening into massive problems. Everything around you is perfectly fine, completely stable, and entirely free of any immediate physical danger. But your internal fear center is acting like a hypersensitive motion detector that keeps firing at empty shadows. Your anxiety looks at the tiny, peaceful moments of your evening and paints a massive monster right over them. Because your brain firmly believes an ambush is coming at any second, it decides that it must prepare for the absolute worst-case scenario. It immediately kicks off the disaster rehearsal loop, just to ensure you are never caught by surprise again. In these quiet moments, your mind runs non-stop, vivid simulations of every possible catastrophe. It forces you to watch terrible mental movies. You sit there trying to enjoy your evening, and instead you watch a detailed simulation of losing your career, your savings, or your marriage. You run through these brutal imaginary scenes over and over again. You are trying to figure out exactly how you will survive when everything inevitably falls apart. You might actually believe that this constant mental preparation makes you safer and more responsible as an adult. It does not make you safe at all. Your body literally does not know the difference between a real event and a highly detailed imagination. This constant mental rehearsal just floods your bloodstream with stress hormones. It keeps your engine running at maximum capacity, for absolutely no reason. You are sitting in a totally safe room with a locked door, but your physical body is fighting a war that does not actually exist in the real world. Your heart rate speeds up, your muscles pull incredibly tight across your shoulders, and your breathing becomes shallow and fast. You are burning massive amounts of energy just staring at a blank wall, draining your daily reserves while doing absolutely nothing productive. In practice, this constant scanning for threats consumes so much glucose and oxygen that it inevitably leads to chronic physical exhaustion. You wake up feeling completely drained the next morning because your brain spent the entire night fighting ghosts in the dark. And honestly, here is the cruelest irony. Of this entire survival engine that you have built over the years, you are probably incredibly capable and totally effective when a real disaster actually strikes your life or your workplace. This strange phenomenon is known as crisis competence. It explains why you feel so strangely calm when everything else is falling apart. You may be highly functional and calm during a massive corporate disaster, but completely fall apart when there is nothing left to fix at home. When everything goes wrong at work, you are always the one who steps up to take total control of the situation. You see the whole picture perfectly. You sketch out a solution from top to bottom, while everyone else is panicking. Your mind gets incredibly quiet and focused, exactly when the outside world gets loud and chaotic. But the second the world gets quiet, your mind gets overwhelmingly loud and chaotic. It completely reverses the normal human experience of peace. You only really feel like yourself when you are heavily stressed, because your entire adult personality was forged within these exact survival mechanisms. Peace feels like a critical system error to you. It feels like a terrifying malfunction that leaves you feeling totally exposed and useless. Because a calm environment lacks the bright danger signals your brain was trained to track, it interprets silence as a very dangerous trick. You literally do not know who you are or what you are supposed to do when you are not actively putting out a massive fire. This deep discomfort with stability leads directly to a very destructive habit that you probably hide from everyone around you. Because you only feel normal and focused in a crisis, you start subconsciously creating them just to get your engine running. This self-sabotage is called procrastination as crisis making. It is a powerful tool for people who cannot function without raw fear. Waiting until the absolute last second is often a subconscious tool to guarantee a familiar, motivating surge of panic that finally allows you to work. You might have a major deadline 2 weeks away, but you will do absolutely nothing for 13 days except stare at the wall. You look at the work, feeling a dull sense of dread and heavy brain fog, but you simply cannot force your hands to move. Then, on the final night before the massive project is due, the manufactured panic finally hits your system like a huge wave. The adrenaline floods your veins, the fog clears instantly, and suddenly you have crystal clear focus on the task right in front of you. You render the project perfectly. You work relentlessly through the night to deliver a flawless final result for your boss. You probably tell yourself and your coworkers that you just work better under pressure, but that is a complete lie. You definitely do not work better under pressure. You just cannot function normally without the harsh chemical spike of pure panic. To drive you forward, you are using raw fear as your primary fuel source, burning out your engine just to get down the street. When that project is finally done and handed in, the panic fades away, leaving you entirely empty and hollow. And what happens next is that you crash into a massive wall of exhaustion. Coming off chronic stress hormones feels exactly like severe drug withdrawal. This chemical crash manifests as a state of restless, agonizing dread, where you cannot sit still, but you also have zero energy to move. You try to take a weekend off to recover. You try to just sit on the couch and watch a movie like a normal person. But 2 minutes of sitting still feel like 20 minutes of pure torture, because your internal clock is completely broken by the adrenaline. High arousal warps your perception of time. It makes short periods of stillness feel like an endless endurance test that you just want to escape. Then comes the most confusing and painful part of this whole chaotic cycle of surviving your own adult life. Sometimes, despite all of this, you actually manage to feel genuinely good about where you are and what you have built. You have a great day, you feel a real sense of joy, and you feel deeply connected to your partner or your friends. And almost instantly, a heavy wave of dark anxiety washes over you. It completely destroys the good mood for absolutely no obvious reason. This sudden drop into fear is called the calm trigger. It is just your brain trying to protect you from being disappointed. The exact moment you realize you are happy, a spike of anxiety hits to protect you from the perceived pain of a sudden disappointment. Your survival brain believes that happiness is just a high place from which you will eventually be pushed, so it decides to push you first. It decides that if it ruins the good mood right now, at least it will be in total control of the inevitable drop. The human brain will instinctively choose predictable pain over the terrifying unpredictability of a quiet, stable environment where it does not know the rules. So you unconsciously pick a massive fight over absolutely nothing just to bring the tension back to a familiar level. You suddenly remember an old embarrassing mistake from 10 years ago, or you find a way to drag yourself back down into the dirt of stress. This is not just happening in your abstract thoughts. It is happening in the physical flesh and muscle of your body. When you try to rest, you might experience the intense physical reality of trapped survival energy trying to find a way out. Sitting still can cause actual physical pain or skin-crawling sensations, making you feel like you have to jump out of your own skin. Your legs want to move, your chest feels incredibly tight, and your jaw clenches down hard without you even noticing it. You feel a deep, buzzing pressure under your skin, like a single, flat tone of electricity running constantly through your veins. And right behind that severe physical discomfort is a massive, crushing wall of unearned guilt that tells you that you are doing something terribly wrong. Attempting to relax can trigger intense guilt. It makes you feel as if being calm is a profound form of negligence or laziness. You feel like you are being caught completely off guard, and that if something bad happens right now, it will be entirely your fault. Because your entire sense of worth has been tied up in how much stress you can carry, putting the burden down feels like a massive moral failure. So, how do you know for sure if you are permanently trapped in this chaos engine, or if you are just having a bad week at work? We need to run a hard, honest audit of your behavior. I want you to look at your adult life right now without making any excuses. Look at the last time you had a completely free afternoon with absolutely zero chores, zero deadlines, and zero people asking anything of you. Did you sink into that free time with genuine relief? Or did you immediately start looking for a new problem to solve? Did you manufacture a completely unnecessary drama? Or did you suddenly decide you needed to clean the entire house with frantic, angry energy? Did you pick up your phone and text someone who always upsets you, just to feel the familiar spark of conflict and annoyance? If you cannot tolerate a single afternoon of absolute peace without creating friction, you are totally failing the test of self-mastery. You are actively choosing the terrible comfort of a known hell over the vulnerability of a peaceful present, and you are doing it on purpose. The core principle you need to accept right now is brutal, but entirely necessary for your ultimate freedom. You have to stop trusting your internal alarm system. Your alarm is fundamentally broken, and it rings loudly when there is no fire. If you run out of the building in a massive panic every single time a broken alarm rings, you will spend your entire life standing out in the cold. You have to learn the exact difference between a real, actionable threat in the present moment and a phantom echo from your past. To fix this broken machinery, you have to face something very painful that you have been avoiding for a very long time. You have to begin the difficult process of grieving your old armor. You must acknowledge that the tools that saved you are now slowly killing you. Healing requires mourning the loss of the high alert state that once kept you safe, even though it is now harming you every single day. That hypervigilance kept you alive when things were truly bad, and it was a loyal friend to you when you had absolutely no one else. But the war is over. The battlefield is empty, and the armor is simply too heavy to wear in your normal civilian life. You have to take it off. And that means you are going to feel incredibly naked, exposed, and vulnerable for a while. This brings us to the actual training move. This is the physical practice that will slowly rewire your nervous system back to normal. You cannot simply think your way out of a nervous system response. You have to train your way out through deliberate physical exposure to peace. You have to sit in the empty void of a quiet room and prove to your body that absolutely nothing bad is going to happen. You must consciously retrain your body to tolerate peace. You must treat relaxation not as a luxury, but as a mandatory daily discipline. This requires sitting through the agonizing discomfort of a quiet room without manufacturing new drama to soothe your old wounds. You will begin by picking a specific block of time, perhaps just 5 minutes to start, and you will simply sit down in a chair without any distractions. You will not look at your phone, you will not turn on the television, and you will not play background music to drown out the silence. You will just sit there, and almost immediately, the panic will start to rise up right in your throat. Your heart will beat faster, and the disaster rehearsal loop will start playing its terrible, vivid movies in your mind. You will feel an overwhelming urge to jump up, grab your car keys, and go fix a problem that does not actually need fixing. Do not move a single muscle. Instead, let the panic peak and wash over you like a huge wave breaking on a rock. Notice the physical sensations in your body. Observe the sharp strokes of anxiety in your chest, without trying to push them away. Notice the flat, heavy dread in your stomach, and just watch it exist without letting it control your physical actions. Tell yourself, out loud in the empty room if you have to, that you are perfectly safe and that this feeling is just a ghost. Force your chaos-driven engine to finally accept this hard truth by refusing to give it the frantic movement it is demanding. There is a very specific, unbreakable rule for this training if you want it to actually change your biological responses. You must end the session on purpose, not in a state of panic or surrender. To retrain the brain, you must end a period of silence by absolute choice, rather than waiting for a panic spike to force you out of it. If you set a timer for 5 minutes, you sit in that chair staring at the wall until the timer actually goes off. If you jump up at 4 minutes because the anxiety simply gets too high, you just taught your brain that panic entirely controls your actions. When you start doing this daily training, you need to know that things might actually feel worse before they start to feel better. You will likely experience extinction bursts. These are massive spikes of resistance from a brain that does not want to change its old habits. Anxiety often spikes to terrifying new levels just before a new pattern of calm finally takes hold in the nervous system. Your brain will throw a massive, exhausting temper tantrum because its favorite coping mechanism is finally being ignored. You have to hold the line firmly through the burst. You must treat your own panic like a full-grown adult throwing a huge fit in a grocery store. If you refuse to do this hard training, the cost to your life and your health will only continue to escalate. You will spend the next 10 years burning out your adrenal glands until you develop chronic illnesses that you simply cannot ignore. You will ruin perfectly good, loving relationships because you will keep picking fights just to feel the familiar, comforting spark of conflict. You will completely sabotage your own success at work because you cannot handle the quiet stability of simply doing a good job without a crisis. You will wake up at 50 years old, utterly exhausted to your bones. You will realize you spent your entire adult life fighting a bitter war against yourself. You will have missed out on decades of genuine joy because your broken brain convinced you that joy was a highly dangerous trap. The ultimate cost of avoiding the quiet room is losing your entire actual life to phantom threats that never even materialized. Honestly, it is time to drop the ego And stop pretending that your chronic stress makes you special or superior to other people. You pride yourself on being tough, and you pride yourself on surviving incredibly hard things in your past. But if you are absolutely terrified of sitting quietly on a soft couch for 10 minutes, that is not toughness at all. That is captivity. You are living as a hostage to your own outdated survival reflexes. Real toughness is having the cold discipline to sit in the peace you fought so hard to build, even when it makes your skin crawl. So here is your one practical challenge for today, and it requires zero equipment and zero preparation. Tonight, when you are completely done with your work and the house is finally still, I want you to go into a room and turn off all the noise. Sit down in a comfortable chair, plant your feet entirely flat on the floor, and set a timer on your watch for just 3 minutes. Do not close your eyes, because closing your eyes allows you to escape into your racing thoughts. Keep your eyes open, look around the room, and notice the solid seams of the furniture and the way the light hits the floorboards. When the panic inevitably starts to rise in your chest, do not distract yourself, and do not look away from the physical reality of the room. Look at the blank walls and remind your physical body that there are absolutely no threats here in this present moment. Breathe slowly through your nose, and when the timer finally goes off, stand up calmly and deliberately. You decide exactly when the silence ends, and by doing that, you finally take the power back from the chaos engine. You are not permanently broken, and you are not doomed to feel this way forever. You are simply carrying a heavy, rusted shield that you no longer need, and it is finally time to put it down on the ground. It takes immense courage to stop fighting a war that ended years ago. It takes real strength to finally believe that you have actually survived, and that the quiet is yours to keep. If you are ready to stop negotiating with your own anxiety and want more of this direct, doctrine-style training, subscribe to the channel.